How you doing out there? My name is Dave. I'm your host. You're listening to the last podcast where the first shall be last and the last shall be first. If this is your first time listening, welcome. I'm happy you found us. If you're returning, welcome back. I really appreciate you listening, and I hope you continue to find tips, ideas, and value from listening to this podcast. Today is going to be part 2. I am doing a series on change, and Monday you heard part 1 if you were listening. Basically, the meat and potatoes of that whole episode was I wanted you to write down 6 questions and answer, and take your time and answer those 6 questions. I'll repeat them right now. What do you want to change? And what do you want, or why do you want to change? And how would you feel when you've made that change? And how do you see yourself now? How would you see yourself when you make the change? Why is it important to feel that way? I just want to go back to the 4th question. How do you see yourself right now? I think answering that question and taking time to think about that question and answering it is critical, because I'm not talking about what you do for a living or anything of that nature or anything that's on the surface. I'm talking about looking in the rings of your heart, your mind, your spirit and soul. How do you see yourself? Not how others see you, not how others may perceive you are, but how do you see yourself? What's your own perception about yourself? So I want you to really think about that question and answer it, and take your time to answer all those questions, because this is important. This is about changing your life, right? So we want to definitely make sure that we're answering those questions and we're getting to the crux of the matter. So part 2, and I want to ask you one question as we start. Where do you see yourself in the next 10 years? And I want to go back for a moment and say, have you ever been stuck in a rut? Unhappy with your life or unsure of your purpose? There are so many people who are unhappy with how their lives are going and wishing their lives were a whole lot better than the way they are right now. So many of us are living below our potential, missing out on the joy and fulfillment that God has for us. But what if I told you that all that can change? All that can change in a way where your life can become a whole lot better from a biblical perspective. What if I told you that you can be more productive emotionally, mentally, and spiritually by following some simple principles from God's Word? Quick disclaimer. I'm not a pastor, deacon, or affiliate with any denominational church or anything of that nature. I'm just a simple man who believes in order to make lasting change in our lives, I have some simple ideas that might work. It's worked for me, and I was hoping that maybe if I share what's working for me, it might work for you. But I'm not naive to know that what might work for me may not work for you. So I understand that, but I'm not talking about following what I've done. I'm talking about looking at a foundation and changing and building from the foundation up. And that means that you would basically look at your own foundation and figure out how to change it and make it much stronger, and then start building upward. So that is what I'm referring to. And those are the things I believe this podcast series can help you with. Today is just that one question. Where do you see yourself 10 years from now? And I had an email yesterday, and it said, why so many questions? So I'm going to answer that with this. One of the reasons why I asked you a question, where do you see yourself 10 years from now, is so that you can have it on paper and you can see what you aspire to in the next 10 years. Hopefully that will empower you to create goals and work backwards and start with small achievable steps to help you stay focused, and hopefully that might work for you, and seeing your future will probably motivate you to work toward that future that you see. Now, many choices that we make in our lives, some of us just live day by day, and things get in the way, and we let life just go about it, and we don't have any ideas or what we are going to do for that day except go to work or whatever. So we live on autopilot, which is crazy. I mean, I've done it. I still do it right now to a point, but I had to stop and say, okay, I have to make plans. And designing your future will help you to create and target, to work toward a way that is specific to your end result, the result that you would like to see in your 10 years. So I want to say this, though. I want to also say this. If you are in an environment that is somewhat toxic to your future self, hear me when I say this. What you hear constantly that belittles you and your future reality self, what someone says about you does not define you. Hear me. I hope you hear this. If you're one of those people who are constantly hearing somebody belittle you, you would never amount to anything, or you are no good for nothing, or you'll always be too fat, too ugly, too skinny, or whatever you're hearing that's belittling your future self, know this, that what others say about you, it will never define you. They're just projecting, I'm assuming, their own negative views and their own shortcomings on you. Just say to yourself, I was made magnificent, that God saw so much value in me and loved me enough to wake me every morning that I have an opportunity to step into my extraordinary destiny. And believe me when I tell you, you are extraordinary. God made you perfect, just the way you are. And that thought brings me to my next thought, which is about breaking down our foundation. That is why I wanted you to answer the 6 questions that I had in part 1. I asked those 6 critical questions to break down our foundation, to start building a solid truth about how we view ourselves and how we see ourselves. Why? Yeah, I'm glad you asked. You can change your behavior, which is called behavior modification. However, I don't believe that will work all the time, putting you back in square one just to be humiliated and frustrated to start all over again. Or perhaps you will be so frustrated you'll give up and stay stagnant in your current reality or situation. I don't want that for you. I basically would rather you go through the process so you can see the transformation and experience the joy throughout your lifetime for making that change, for taking the time out right now and making the necessary changes that you need to make so you can have a more fulfilling life. Now, how do we start? I'm really happy you asked that question, because we have to start to build a solid foundation in order to build our lives. That is a great question. So let's figure out, how do we begin, right? It is by renewing your mind. Everything is connected to thought. What we think about, our thoughts, views, perceptions, and even our emotions. And there's another component that I bet you that many people will argue may not even belong here. However, I believe it does, and that's faith. Faith. What is faith? Faith is the belief in something that is not based on proof. The Bible says, now faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen, the substance of things. That's powerful right there too, because that which is a thing that consists of what? Physical, matter, material, form, or substance. If you want a new beginning, you have to start within. You have to start at the core of your being. You must start with how you view yourself, what you think, and you have to start from within, heart, mind, and spirit. So you need to know who you are internally, who you are, and not what you do. You have to start with what you think, what you believe. And if you have a negative thought or negative connotations on yourself, then you need to renew your mind. And I guarantee you, we all need an opportunity to renew our mind. Why? Because It's so easy to become negative about something. It's so easy to become negative about whatever it is in life that we are negative about. But it's harder, I should say, to stay positive, to become positive. We have to work harder on being positive, and it's easier to be a negative person. That's why it's so hard to be so positive. I digressed for a moment, and I'm sorry, but I get a little excited with this, and not sometimes I might even go overboard. But I want to get back to what I was originally saying. You have to start from the beginning, and you have to start from within. You have to start at the core of your being. You must start with how you view yourself, mind, heart, and spirit. If you don't believe me, you could look at some ancient writings. Many years ago, it reads, "As a man thinketh in his heart, so is he." It all starts with our perception of how we view ourselves from within. And don't get me wrong, I'm not talking about a person who is content with where they're at right now and who is happy. That's great. I applaud you. But there are so many people who probably feel, you know what, I'm grateful for where I'm at. I'm grateful for what I've accomplished in life, but somehow I still feel this void somewhere in my life, and I don't know where it's coming from. Or you might be one of those people who say, you know what, I need to overhaul my life, and I need to tweak something in my life. Or you just might be one of those people who said, I need a complete transformation. I don't like the way my life is going, and I want to make sure that I'm talking to you. I believe in the pursuit of changing our lives for the better. It must come from a place of gratification. We have to be grateful for where we are right now, with appreciation that life can be better. Whether you're improving your life in ways like marriage or relationships, or even small aspects of your life. Being grateful and humbling is a great way to start and recognize there's room for improvement. And for me, it was. I'm grateful, and there was a lot of room for improvement. So yes, that's why I'm doing this series, because I believe that there are so many things to create change within our lives that we can tweak it. We don't have to change our lives entirely, but yes, if that's you that want to change entirely, then go for it. I say you got to start with inside and work your way out. There's so much to be grateful for, and believe me when I tell you, I know, even if you suffered unimaginable losses like I did, there is still a way to be grateful for whatever you have. And you still want to become a better person and find something in your life that gives you a larger purpose, so that you can be more of a value to others, your society, or even the kingdom of heaven right here on earth, if that's something that you believe in. We all take life for granted. We take things that we do for granted. Sometimes we have to take a moment and thank our Creator for it all. We have to take a moment and realize that we are blessed. Even if things are not going the way we want, we still have to take a moment and say, you know what, I'm happy I have a roof over my head. And for those who don't, maybe you're happy to be alive. But I say unto you that every idle word men shall speak, they shall have an account for. Think about that. In the beginning of this podcast, you remember I said, what somebody says about you does not have to define you. So there's a flip part of that coin. On the other side, what you say about you could define you. That is more powerful than what others may say about you. And what you tell yourself and believe to be true, it can be a good thing, or it can send you down the wrong life path. And that's why I said, but I say unto you that every idle word that men shall speak, they shall give an account thereof in the day of judgment. I want you to think about that, but also think about this. For by the words thou shalt be justified, and by thy words thou shalt be condemned. So when you start thinking about how you believe yourself to be, and that's why I gave those 6 questions in the very beginning and in part 1, it is so critical that you understand where you're coming from, and you understand who you are, and you understand why you do the things that you do and what makes you do the things that you do. And renewing your mind is nothing more than feeding what you mentally intake with a positive stimuli. So how do you do that? You actually congest positive things. And I would suggest, if you're a believer, you believe in God, you start to re-educate yourself in the Word and start with the Bible. Start seeing what God says about you. And that is how you start to renew your mind. Just don't take my word or anyone else's word. Investigate the scriptures. Obtain the word for yourself. Start to change your own narrative. And I want you to think about this. I really want you to think about this. Watch what you say about others. Refrain from talking bad or negative in a negative way about others, or even gossiping. Also think about this. But those things which proceed out of the mouth come forth from the heart, and they defile a man. That's also Mathew 15:18. I'm not saying anything new. I'm basically saying, hey, there's ways that we can renew our mind, but believe me when I tell you, you got to start with what you think, and you got to start with a new belief system and renew your mind. Start thinking other things. Start thinking more positively. And so how do we enhance our belief? How do we change? How do we renew our mind? It's by changing the narrative and conversation. You just can't feed yourself something positive, a positive stimuli. You just can't read the word and read the word. You have to also have those conversations with yourself, positive conversations with yourself, and positive conversations with others. So it all starts with what we think. Therefore, it starts with the conversation that we have with ourselves and others. Death and life are in the power of the tongue. Proverbs 18:21. That is so powerful. Death and life are in the power of the tongue. That means that what we speak is so powerful that we have to be careful of what we say, not only about ourselves, but about others, because we can speak goodness in the lives of other people. So why not do that instead of speaking bad or negative about somebody? The quality of life we experience is connected to the words we speak, our narrative of life. I want you to understand that. So that's what I have for you today. And if you come back next week, I'll have the third part of change for you. Again, you're listening to Dave. You're listening to the last podcast, where the first shall be last and the last shall be first. I hope that this was something that you can take with you and start to change your life and change the foundation, for which it can be a strong foundation for you to continue to build upon. And I say, go ahead. It starts with the word. It starts with the narrative and the conversations that you have with yourself internally and with others. If you want to hit me up, you can do so at the last podcast 443 gmail.com, or hit me up at dave@thelastpodcast.info. You can simply send me a text at 972-284-9518. Again, that number is 972-284-9518. Hit me up and share this podcast with others, your family, friends, co-workers, and do me a favor, like this podcast and subscribe. That's all I got for you today. Be blessed. Have a great day. Bye-bye.